A while ago, I made a video where I asked Claude to help me make as much money as possible with what I had. That video did well. And the reason it did well, I think, is that the answer Claude gave me was not the answer I wanted. It told me to stop treating my 20-year legal career as the thing I was escaping from and start treating it as the fastest path to income I wasn't using. I hated that answer. I made a whole video about hating it. And then I did what it said. This is the sequel. Here's what happened when I actually followed the advice. For anyone new here, quick intro. I'm Aimee, 42, Sydney lawyer, 2 decades of commercial practice, building a suite of AI-powered YouTube channels, trying to exit my 9-to-5 by February 2027. I have a channel called Ren AI because I believe AI will bring in a new renaissance for humanity. Still no pink hair. My voice isn't my real voice. Australian. For anyone who didn't see the first video, here's the short version. I asked Claude, in a proper, structured session with real context about my situation, to tell me the fastest path to income given everything I had. My channels, my skills, my network, my background, my available hours. I expected it to tell me to go harder on the YouTube content, to post more, build faster, double down on the AI creator path. Instead, it asked me a series of clarifying questions I didn't expect. What was my professional background? What did I understand that most people around me didn't? What problems had I spent 20 years watching people not be able to solve? And then it came back and said, you have a level of legal expertise you've never once tried to monetize outside a salary. That's not a side note. That's the answer. I'd been treating my legal career as the thing I was in the process of leaving. The whole point of the February 2027 exit was to get out of it. So Claude coming back and saying, "Have you considered the law?" felt like it was missing the entire point of the exercise. But when I pushed back on it and asked it to explain the reasoning, what it said was something I couldn't argue with. The question isn't whether you want to keep practicing law in the traditional sense. The question is whether you're leaving value on the table by treating your legal expertise as irrelevant to the business you're building, when it's actually a differentiator that most AI creators don't have and can't easily replicate. So I built a legal AI product, a productized document package for legal professionals using Claude, aimed at the US market, where the appetite for this kind of thing is significantly higher than in Australia. I priced it, put it on Gumroad, and here's the part one didn't plan. I didn't realize it had gone live before I was ready. Someone found it. They bought the document package at the 50% discount I'd set, thinking no one would find it yet. Then they grabbed every free PDF I'd put up across the channels. Then they went to a separate channel and bought a $20 product there too. 3 purchases, 1 buyer, before I'd told anyone either product existed. What I did after that notification arrived was not celebrate. I sat there refreshing my inbox, waiting for the refund request, which tells you something about the assumption I'd been carrying. I built the product thinking it was for later, when I was more ready, when I had more of an audience, when I could properly launch it. I hadn't fully reckoned with the possibility that someone would find it and want it right now, in its current state, and not ask for their money back. The refund never came. That buyer is still in the system. And what I learned from that single data point changed how I think about what ready actually means. Around the same time I was working through Claude's advice about the legal product, I was watching everything Sabrina Romanoff put out. For people who don't know her, she's one of the clearest thinkers on the AI creator space, and she says the same things over and over again because she believes them that much. The thing she says that connected most directly to what Claude had told me is this: brand before product, audience before offer. Most people build the product first and then try to find the people who want it. She says that's almost always the wrong order, and that the people who skip audience building tend to spend twice as long and twice as much getting to the same place as the people who did it first. Claude had told me something structurally similar from a different angle. Not build audience first, specifically, but stop ignoring the asset you already have. The legal credential wasn't just a product angle, it was also a differentiation story. The thing that makes the Renaissance channel different from the 100 other AI creator channels out there is partly the specific lens I bring to it. Lawyer, 2 decades of professional practice, someone who's been inside institutions that are being disrupted by AI and understands what that disruption looks like from the inside. That's the brand. And Claude found it by asking me questions about what I understood that other people didn't. I've made $120 from this business in 2 months. I know, that number is small. I say it out loud because I think the honest version of this story is more useful than the version where I hide the small number and let you assume it's bigger. $15 came from a Patreon membership on a separate channel. $105 came from product sales, the legal document package, plus the $20 product that same buyer found on the other channel. I also had a sponsorship conversation with a small legal tech startup that didn't close. I held my price, $300 for a sponsorship placement, even though they pushed back and the deal didn't happen. I don't regret holding the price. I'm also operating at a loss right now. Claude Max, ChatGPT, HeyGen, 11 Labs, the infrastructure costs of running this suite are currently higher than what it's generating. That's a real fact about where I am, and I think it's worth saying out loud, because the version of this story you usually see online skips from "I started" to "here's how much I'm making," without showing you the part in between, where the costs are higher than the revenue, and you're building on conviction rather than validation. What I have is conviction that the infrastructure I'm building compounds, and that the legal credential angle Claude identified is a real differentiator. What I'm waiting for is the point where enough of the audience has accumulated that the product actually reaches the people it's built for. Here's what I actually took from doing what Claude said, rather than what I wanted it to say. The first thing is that AI finds assumptions you've stopped questioning. I've been so committed to the exit from law narrative that I built it into the premise of every decision I was making about the channels. Claude didn't have that narrative. It just looked at what I had and told me what it saw. And what it saw, looking at my situation without the story I'd been telling myself about it, was different from what I'd been seeing. Slide 11. The second thing is that following advice you don't want to hear is different from following advice you do. When you follow advice you agree with, you can always tell yourself you would have gotten there anyway. When you follow advice you actively resisted and it works, you have to update something fundamental about how you're making decisions. I'm updating. The legal product angle wasn't what I would have done without Claude. It was what Claude found when I asked it to look at my situation without my own blind spots in the way. The third thing is smaller, but I think it matters. The buyer who found the product before it launched, before I'd done any of the things I thought I needed to do before a product could be ready, is the most useful data point I have right now. It means someone in the world wanted the thing I built. That's different from hoping someone will want it eventually. Different in a way that changes what I'm willing to do next. I asked Claude to make me as much money as possible. It told me to use my legal expertise. I didn't want to. I did it anyway. I made $120 in 2 months, operating at a loss, with one buyer who found the product before I launched it and didn't ask for a refund. If you haven't seen the first video, the one where I got the answer I didn't want, it's in the description. If you're interested in the prompt kit that led to my first sale in this fledgling business, it's in the description on the main channel homepage. I'm Aimee. This is Renaissance. Now, go play.